Hi, this is Peter Jackson from Engineering CAD Solutions. In this video, we'll look at extracting power lines from a point cloud dataset. In this instance, it's an E57. When we load the E57 into the application, we then have the opportunity to classify the individual components within that dataset. This way, we're able to separate out the ground, low-level vegetation, high-level vegetation, etc. By turning on that classification, we can then differentiate between those individual components. And what we want to do is find a corridor which contains the towers or poles we wish to extract from. So we find our corridor, create a cross-section through that corridor, and then this allows us to extract out the information using the components remaining within that corridor. First thing we're going to do is go through and place the towers or poles into that data set. Here we can locate that pole. When we go to locate a pole, we can actually confirm the tops and bottoms of the pole. And if those poles have any lean or angle to them, that also can be added to the placement of the pole or tower. Go through and place the same for each of the towers along that corridor. And this allows us then to pinpoint the connection points for the power lines along that corridor. So once we've placed our towers, we can then save the location of those towers in case we need that information later on. And the second thing we're going to do is place the connection points on those towers. So here we're just placing a line to confirm the connection between those towers. And now what we're going to do is have the connection points of the power lines on the cross arms for those towers. Place individual connection points, or we can place multiple connection points at one time. And as we accept those, it then goes through to the next pole along the corridor and allows us to place the connection points for those on those cross arms on those particular poles. Once we're finished, we accept, then carries on to the next pole, and so on through the dataset. Once we're finished, we accept that. And what we have are points along the corridor on the poles showing us the connection points. Now what we're doing is picking those points and adding the relative or relevant cable to those particular points or those connection points. You can see we'll have multiple cross arms, and then we can add in those power lines along the corridor connected at those points on the cross arms. So here we have the ones on the left which we've just added, the ones on the right we added in earlier on. The next step in the process is to actually confirm or report on the heights of those cables to the ground. So we turn on all of our classified components within the point cloud. We process the attachment clearances, and we have our values displayed on the screen. We can then move that information to make it more legible, and of course we can report that information out as a spreadsheet or a text file showing the connection points at each of the poles. Another item we want to have a look at is the power line clearance. So this is the point along the power line at the bottom of the sag, which allows us to then place a value to show the connection point or the clearance between the sag and the ground. And then last of all, we can do a power line clearance, which allows us to place value or pinpoint what the clearance is between the power lines at any point along the power line itself. So that's a quick overview of how we go about extracting that information. If you'd like some further details, please give me a call on 1300 762 614. That's 1300 762 614.